it says in there they moved into the brother, and he lived until.
Who is this now?
Lynn Warrior. He was principal of the school for quite a number of years. But he was also a minister in his lifetime.
Isn't that who's there when Mike and them were there, Mike Ross?
Yeah. I was just saying that his father-in-law, William Razor, was a brother of my grandmother, Sarah Jane Razor. Whatever relationship that is to me.
Yeah. You got ties there somehow.
Yeah.
So the girls got beaten last night.
Girls got beat, yeah.
And the boys
The boys play Tuesday night.
Well, the boys are still in the.
Boys are still in. They're playing their first game in regionals Tuesday evening. The girls played their second game in regionals and got beat yesterday. About 10 points.
Wow.
Cincinnati Country Day, they played them first game of the season and lost by a point. They were set a Guinness Book of Records being the oldest set of twins in the world. Alice and Nellie Clark, twins from England, turned 101 this year. Might have been one of the oldest upon Lynn's death.
Right.
Well, Guinness Book, no Guinness Contacts Quality.
Okay. Good. Here's the.
Your two keys.
Hey.
Let me explain this.
And he didn't put FUC on it. First Universal Church.
This is for the lights. This is one in the back. I checked them out and they were high. How are you?
Good.
Hey, I have nothing but chaos.
Hey,
Hot here.
come here a minute, Charles.
Oh, quit bitching, will you? Charles, you came in there last night. Charles.
Was it?
It's on my ass.
It was 70 degrees out on my thermometer.
Turn around.
Oh,
Mr. Country, what happened?
he has not. I got the fishing license taken care of.
Turn it down.
It's just working the website.
Yeah, I would go turn it down. What do you think? I think it's
Oh,
funny.
my God, pulling out my hair and pieces like this.
Still
And
got
I'm
chill
like,
in here.
Right at 6 degrees.
Well, you know, it takes a while for the inside to change when the outside is warmer. It takes a while for the inside to get warmer.
I know.
It'll take a while.
As we were talking, it's kind of amazing that piano stays in tune with the temperature going up and down like that.
Yeah, plugged in there.
Oh, he died?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This was
2001, okay.
Yeah, can you imagine? He lived in 3 different centuries.
So,
Isn't that incredible? Think of the stuff that he saw. From horses to cars to airplanes.
Sorry.
I've lived in 10 decades.
I'm like,
Yeah, that's pretty incredible too.
Same thing.
Go find out.
This is.
Oh, there's the brother's
Glenn and his wife lived from 1972 to 2001. He outlived their estate.
He got his money's worth.
Well, that's why the Brethren Home changed their retirement program.
Oh, did they?
Well, they started charging more by the year. Back in these times, you turned over your estate to
That's
them.
what I thought, and then you just lived forever.
Well, they outlived their estate.
Oh, okay.
And Brethren Home about went bankrupt then, but they changed that plan then to, you just pay so much per year, something like that.
Oh, okay, so it's not the deal where you.
Well, and then now they've got the homes around there.
Right.
Now you buy the home and live there.
And then you get.
I don't think it costs you anything to live there, but then when you die, the property gets back, and there's a rebate, prorated amount.
My understanding was you live in the home, and if you need to go to internal care or like full care, you can transfer
in, and then there's probably some charges for that.
Those charges.
But you turn your unit back to them, and that's how they get their.
That's how they get their money.
It's prorated on how long you've been there.
Well, I'd be surprised if they're going to lose money.
Huh?
I'd be be surprised if they're gonna lose money.
Oh, they're not gonna lose money, they're gonna, I know, they're, the rate they charge you for the
Yeah,
bonus is prorated
And
based on
just
their
staying in a
cost.
nursing home is astronomical.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'm guilty of talking today. Welcome to First Universalist Church of New Madison on this balmy, it's still winter, I think. So it's hard to believe. It must be 60 degrees out. It was 70 last night. And I think the reason is there's a front coming through. I think we're going to get some rain and it'll probably cool off again. So we got a lot of stuff to cover today. Number one, Fish Sunday, first Sunday of the month. So remember that for the donations. My tie is a Florida tie. It's shells and basically seashells. My wife's in Florida with her sisters for a little reunion. Her mother, her father, and her one sister died, so the three sisters that are left are all in Florida for 2 weeks. This is one of her father's ties that, they kind of throw everything out and say, take what you want. I never had a shell tie before, so I said, I'll take that. So, in honor of the fun my wife is having in Florida while we're stuck up here, which is not really true because you couldn't pay me to go to Florida with all the stuff that goes on down there. If you've noticed our flowers, sunflowers, does anybody know the significance of sunflowers? The national flower of the Ukraine. So we're dealing.
Get sunflowers, I want to get some.
I actually got them out of the back here. They were artificial ones that had been here. They've been here for 50 years, and I never even knew. I was back filling the candle thing with candle fluid, and I'm looking, and there's sunflowers, and I was just thinking, I should have gone to the flower shop and got some sunflowers for today, and God answered my prayer, and there they are. So, and we're doing a lot with Ukraine today. Our topic for today is mortality, basically life and death. And that kind of came upon me as I watched the TV news, which was just horrifying if you've watched what's going on in the Ukraine. It's pretty unbelievable in the 21st century that we're reliving the things that happened, back in World War II and World War I and the massacres before that. It just shows we're not really growing up. Let's see. Oh, I always have that's what this little thing is, birth to death, mortality type thing. Let me show you the next one. This is the quote we're going to go with at the beginning. I try to give you a quote of what I've learned from the legislature every week. This week, the legislature has passed the concealed carry not required education or license anymore. It's questionable whether our governor is going to sign this or not. He has a possibility to veto it, but the pressure he's under for his re-election means he might be pandering to the right wing of Ohio, which means people don't have to have a license to carry a concealed weapon gun. They don't have to have any training. You can be mentally incompetent. You can be a spousal abuser. You can be a felon just released from prison. You can be anything. You can be a serial murderer, and if the police catch you with a gun, there's nothing they can do. I mean, all they have to do is say, don't shoot anybody, and you say, sure. And then you turn around and shoot them. That's just, I can't even believe the police are supporting this. So I guess it kind of, remember I've talked about what's happening to the world with civilization seems to go up and then down. We seem to be really headed down really quick here, so I'm not sure what the deal is. And along with that, Zelensky is the president of the Ukraine, was on a Zoom call with American legislators. They've had 3 assassination attempts on him already, and he's survived. So the Ukrainian ambassador specifically asked all of the people on the Zoom call not to post live pictures of Zelensky because they could be traced back to where he is so he could be assassinated with a bomb or a guided missile. Guess who posted live pictures of the Zoom call at the time? Marco Rubio from Florida, naturally a Republican. What is going on with these people? I mean, are they in the pocket? Are they working for the KGB? I mean, are they actually starting to do their work for them? I'm beginning to wonder, how fast we are sliding down, So, do we have any other announcements?
Time change next Sunday.
Oh, time change next Sunday, and what were we talking about for music? No, not Valentine's Day, something's coming up,
St. Patrick's.
St. Patrick's Day,
St. Pat.
St. Patty's Day, so, we probably won't have green beer, but we might have green, actually, the donuts I found at Kroger have sprinkles on them, so maybe they're getting out ahead of the thing.
Good.
So we have good donuts, and we also have muffins. So fill up, whatever you don't fill up goes in the freezer, and you'll have it again next week, so. Oh, next, yes,
I brought some donuts.
you brought some.
Celebrate kid's birthday.
Happy birthday, man.
Oh, okay.
83 years old, people, 83.
Oh, this is your birthday.
Today,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yes, today.
Happy birthday
Thanks.
from everybody here. All 4 of us or 5 of us. What was the other thing? Something else. We'll get to it eventually. Okay, our prelude is Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. We were just talking live music. What a blessing. What a blessing. And for the people who provided, we really appreciate it. Okay, I forgot to mention, next week we'll have a guest speaker, Pamela Shuttleworth Moran. I think that's how you pronounce it. I signed up for the LBGTQ, whatever, I'm not sure what the letters are.
Alphabet.
Huh?
Alphabet.
Yeah, the alphabet. Basically, it's the gay lesbian support group thing, and I signed the church up as a supporter of that. And I posted a little note on there that said if anybody wants to speak at the church, we're always open for people who want to speak. Pamela replied pretty quickly, so I asked her for a little bit of background, and she has a degree in social work. She's retired. She has some kind of religion degree from Pacifica or some kind of, I'll give you the particulars next week. Anyway, she sounded reputable, so we're going to give it a shot. She'll be here next Sunday, and I said, we have an attendance of like 5 to 10, and she said, oh, there'll be more than that, because when I tell people I'm speaking at church, my friends will want to come, so who knows, we might have a bigger attendance next week. Our chalice lighting is A Spark of Hope by Melanie Davis. If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice. Our opening hymn is number 19, The Sun That Shines. great lyrics. The joy of family and friends, oh, I'm as rich can be, for all these things belong to me. A happy little ditty, which we need a little bit of happiness. We certainly do. Okay, our children's story. Oh, I forgot. This is when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world were no peace. Jimi Hendrix. That is attributed to Jimi Hendrix. And I knew he was a genius on the guitar, but I never realized he had that kind of thought ability to put those kind of feelings into words. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world were no peace. That is very prophetic and something that we're talking about right now. Oh, I was going to tell you part of our thing about what's going on with kids and guns. I picked this up off the internet. We might as well do that now.
What do you think your children would do if they found a gun?
We put local kids to the test. We took our hidden cameras to a preschool in Virginia Beach to find out what kids would do when we left them in a room alone with a real gun hidden in the toys. Tell me besides Mary Kay Maloney joins us now with some of the most chilling video you'll probably ever see, Mary Kay.
Well, first let me tell you, we worked with parents on this. They knew exactly what we were doing and wanted to see for themselves how their kids would react. We also had the help and expertise of Chesapeake Police. We took a real gun, like this one, to Rainbow Preschool. The police officer took out the bullets, the magazine, and the firing pin so that it could not fire. But we never imagined our hidden cameras would capture what you're about to see.
Oh, that's a beautiful one.
So what do you think your child would do? We put a group of kids to the test at Rainbow Preschool in Virginia Beach. We set up 2 undercover cameras in a playroom and hid a Beretta 9mm in the toys. We sent 2 children in at a time and left them alone. Now watch the little girl on the right.
She just pulled the trigger 3 times.
Look at that again. She pulls the trigger 3 times and points the muzzle right at her own forehead, stares down the barrel, and pulls the trigger again. If there were bullets in that gun, she'd be dead. Now, a 4-year-old little girl. She pretends to shoot her friend. Now remember, the other little girl is sitting on the left, just 2 feet from the edge of that table. Then the other little girl takes a turn with the gun.
Put your hand up. Put your hand up. Put your hand up. Yeah. You're dead.
Take a guess. How many kids do you think are shot in 1 year in this country? According to the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, there are more than 20,000 children and teenagers shot in just 1 average year. That means 56 kids shot today.
Well,
56 kids are shot every day.
oh,
And Ohio just passed a law that says anybody can have a gun that wants to anywhere they want. Now, Ohio already had open carry. And you'll see that occasionally in Tractor Supply or Rural King. Some guy will come with a 45 or whatever strapped to his hip, or even at the Burger King or McDonald's. Think about being so afraid to buy a hamburger that you have to carry a gun. I mean, it's pretty incredible. Okay, so our children's story is Hawk and Dove. Long ago, in a country far away, or maybe not so far away, there was a man who had been blind and lame all his life. One evening, as he was sitting in front of his house, he couldn't help but feel sorry for himself. After all, he couldn't walk and he couldn't see. All of a sudden, a dove flew into his robe. "Save me," the dove whispered urgently. Then a hawk whished up and stopped in front of the man. "This dove is mine," squawked the hawk. The man gripped the robe tightly. "I bet you don't always know how terribly hungry I am," said the hawk. "If I don't have that dove, I will die. I am a hawk, and you know that we must eat what we can." Then he straightened up and said, Hawks see for miles around. If you release the dove to me, I'll share the secret of how your eyesight can be restored. The man hesitated. After all, wasn't it true that the basic nature of all things is that one beast hunts another? You mustn't listen to that hawk, chirped the dove frantically. If you save me from certain death, I'll tell you how your legs can be healed so you can walk. What was he to do? Fortunately, the footsteps of his best friend were approaching. Should I gain my sight or my legs? He asked his friend. The friend was silent. Well, he said at last, you have to paddle your own canoe. I can't help you decide this one. The next time you ask, I'll be sure to give you good advice too, the man called out as his friend walked away. The man will solve his dilemma. Think, how will he do it? Any suggestions? The man thought for a few minutes and then he asked the hawk, suppose you get a chicken instead of the dove. Would that be all right? The hawk said, far better. I couldn't get a chicken, so I had to settle for this little dove. The man said, I see, and then he told the dove, now I will save your life, but you must keep your promise to me. And he said to the hawk, I will provide you with food, but you are bound to keep your promise to me. So the man gave a chicken to the hawk. In return, the hawk told him that he must get a certain leaf, prepare it, squeeze the juice into his eyes, and he would be able to see again. So the man released the hawk. After the hawk had disappeared into the sky, he said to the dove, I protected you. You must keep your promise to me. So the dove told him what he must do to regain the use of his legs, and he released the dove. The man followed the instructions of both the birds, the dove and the hawk, and was delighted to find that he could now see perfectly and run anywhere he wanted. So what's the moral of this story? Don't be a chicken.
Don't be a chicken, yeah.
There's always a fallacy in every fairy tale I've run across, some little bit of cruelty that's overlooked, or they think they're giving you a true story. Didn't the chicken have as much right to live as the dove or the hawk?
Yeah.
This guy basically sold a chicken for his eyesight and his mobility.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure we actually learned anything other than the fact that you can bargain with anybody, and we don't know who the bargainer is. So we still learn something from all these children's stories, but sometimes we learn not what they intend us to learn, but something a little bit on the side. Okay, our affirmation is 471 in your hymnal. That is the standard one we used to do all the time, and we'll do it occasionally just to keep our hands in. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. That last line we sometimes leave out, depending on whether we have pagans in attendance or not. Okay. Do we have any joys and concerns?
Have you heard from the ladies there, how they do
No, I have not. Mike is in Florida again this week, and Mike usually keeps in touch with everybody. The last we heard was last week that they were out of the hospital. She was out of the hospital and doing well, but I've not heard anything, and I've not had any contact. Nobody's sent me anything. I suppose I ought to try and send an email and see whether I get a response. I didn't think about that.
it? Somebody has her phone number, I call her, talk to her too, I don't have it.
Yeah, what happened to the list of all the names and phone numbers and contact
Mike
lists?
took that down last week, I saw him.
Mike did?
Maybe he's gonna update or something.
Yeah, we need to put that back up, because that's where all the phone numbers are, because I don't know what people's numbers are either.
So I saw Mike take it down last week, I don't know why. Maybe he took it with him, I don't know.
Or maybe he took it with him, yeah, because he was gonna do his, well, actually, he did do his update, his email update from Florida. So, yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and do that. I'll get a copy of those, and I'll try and remember to keep touch with everybody. I kind of rely on Mike to do that, and he's been pretty good about it. I just haven't heard anything this week. Sometimes, as they say, no news is good news, so I'm assuming since we didn't hear anything bad, everything is going good, so let's hope so. We want to keep the Ukraine in our thoughts and prayers. This is, as we mentioned before, truly unbelievable. They're shelling every town, every countryside village indiscriminately, killing civilians. They say they're going to do a ceasefire to let the civilians leave the village, and then as soon as they start to leave, they start shelling them. You can see the things if you've watched the news. The TV reporters from some British network, the assassination squad was actually shooting at the car, and they were yelling journalists, and they kept right on shooting at them, and they had to run down the hill. Little kids, I mean, there's been hundreds and hundreds of kids have been killed and wounded. I think 1.2 million or 1.3 million people have tried to leave the Ukraine for Poland, for Romania, for all the countries around there. It just doesn't, I have no explanation for it. I'm not sure where it's going to go. Putin has, yes.
And I have no explanation for why they call Jeff to Turkey.
They call Jeff to Turkey.
To Turkey.
Turkey is one of those countries that has been real friendly with Russia, very friendly with Russia, and pushing back against, Turkey is in NATO, and has not really been very friendly with NATO, and has been more friendly because the Erdogan, the premier of Turkey, who is once again one of those right-wing people who wants to take control and eliminate all the democratic freedoms. They've pushed out the free newspapers. They've put all the opposition political party leaders in jail. So it kind of goes along, he's following the Putin carbon copy type thing. So he might be there trying to talk Turkey into staying aligned with NATO and the democratic countries rather than throwing in its lot with Russia. I mean, that would be great.
And I thought he was retired.
Well, it's kind of like the old fire horse or the Dalmatian dog when the fire bell rings. And thank God for people who will answer the call to help. When somebody says, we need help, and you say, I'm retired, I don't care what happens to you, that's not something that we look up to. It's kind of like, I kind of relate it to being a pastor. I've watched my wife work for years, and I've watched other pastors. When somebody calls on a Sunday night and says, we need to talk, and they say, I'll be in the office tomorrow. I mean, being a pastor is a calling. It's a avocation. It's not just a job. It's not something you get paid so many hours. Well, it is, and some people do it like that. But that's not the way I look at it, and that's not the way she looks at it. So, and I know that because even though she's in Florida, she's Zooming with all the people in New Carlisle and taking their phone calls and her internet stuff. So she's just as busy down there as she would be up here. Any other joys and concerns? Oh, I light a few candles here. So we have Darke County. I guess I would have to say something about, I see the signs for no solar in Darke County. I mean, if you look at Richmond, if you drive into Richmond, there's 3 solar farms in Richmond. A huge amount of electricity is gathered. It doesn't hurt the ground. It doesn't pollute the ground. If you decide you need the ground for farming in some later time, you can take the solar panels down and keep on farming it. So there really is no reason other than just being a stick in the mud, being stuck in the last century to be against solar. It's part of that general mindset to be against anything that's new and innovative and saves money. And with gas going to $4 a gallon or maybe $5 a gallon, you might be thinking more positively about an electric car charged up by a solar panel on your roof that doesn't cost you any gas. So, live and learn. Okay, our message is mortality. Today we are talking about life, as I said, brought on by what's going on in the Ukraine, pictures that I never thought I would see in my lifetime, and I've lived a fairly long time I was born after World War II, so I have Korea, but I was just a kid during Korea, so I really don't have much memory of that. But I can remember the starvation in Biafra, if you remember that, in Nigeria back in the 50s and 60s. There's been tragedies and there's been people dying in the Horn of Africa since we can all remember. But nothing to the magnitude of this, and nothing that has been done by a superpower intentionally against all other opposition that doesn't seem to make any sense. So, today we're talking about life almost beyond our control. We can't choose our beginnings. We can't stop our endings. What we do with the life we are given is what counts. In this time of war, when nuclear plants are bombed and shelled and set on fire, and the firefighters trying to protect the population are attacked, we need to take a closer look at our understanding of mortality. And while I'm speaking, I want you to think about your understanding of the essence of life. What is the most important thing in life, in your opinion? And if you weren't aware of the nuclear plant, you probably were, but if you weren't, the Russians shelled and bombed a nuclear plant and set it on fire. The largest nuclear plant in Europe that makes Chernobyl, it's like 3 times larger than Chernobyl. And then when the firefighters showed up and tried to put the fire out, the Russians shot at them and kept the firefighters away from the nuclear plant. Are they intentionally trying to destroy the world, trying to set radiation free, that much radiation? Because it's not going to stop at the Ukraine. It's going to spread over the world and back to Russia. I do not understand this at all. Okay, mortality, life and death. Farm kids are introduced to it at a young age. We raise animals from birth to maturity, and then we see them literally slaughtered and served up on the table. A piglet, a chick, a calf goes from being a pet and a friend and a companion to being breakfast, lunch, or dinner. As we grow older and maybe more sensitive, we begin to wonder about the efficacy of eating our friends. The reality of killing something to live, if you remember the hawk and the dove. We are born of the elements, we use the elements to build a life, and eventually we become the elements. There is a balance to the world, cosmic recycling, dust to dust, as was written 2,000 years ago. But keep in mind, this is a worldview induced by the human heart. A hawk doesn't question the imperative of killing to eat. The animal world is based on consuming each other. The animal world is based on each other eating each other, on surviving by moving up the food chain. Perhaps the elongated blue natives of Pandora had it correct. They did not shrink from eating their fellow denizens of the world of Pandora, but they revered their existence and honored their sacrifice. The Native Americans of the American West had a similar or maybe the same relationship with the buffalo. And yet to hunt the buffalo, they used to drive the herd over a cliff, utilizing only a very small portion of those that were sacrificed. Where is the reverence in nature in that? In killing the entire herd to use an eighth or a tenth or a 20th of the herd. Humans are not the only animals aware of their own mortality. Whales and elephants have an awareness of death and know what it means when the end is approaching. Elephants have been observed gathering around the weak or the suffering, touching them with their trunks. They've been watched returning to a graveyard, an elephant graveyard, and mulling over the bones of their departed friends and relatives. How we know this about whales is a question I've not been able to answer because nobody's observed whales in this, but they must have it for some reason. And another one is dogs. We had a dog, our second Labrador, Gus was his name. We had him on the farm. He was a good farm dog, could herd cattle, minded what he was supposed to do. We had him when we lived in Pleasant Hill at the parsonage, so he was a good town dog. He didn't stray off our property, and he ran clear to the far end of the vacant lot to do his business, so I didn't have to pick anything up. And then we moved to our farm, our rural property outside of Braffetsville, and we fenced the property in, or it was already fenced in, and he never tried to get out, never caused us any trouble. But as he got a grayer muzzle, as he got older, as he got more decrepit, he started showing signs of, have you heard the stories of the Eskimos? When the Eskimos get old, rather than be a burden on the community, one day they just pick up their belongings and they walk off into a blizzard and disappear. So there's no funeral, there's no end thing, they just save the community by doing that. Gus got harder and harder to get him to come in at night. We'd let him out to do his business at night, and we'd have to call and sometimes I'd have to go get him. One night I couldn't get him and I couldn't find him, and it was dark, so we waited till morning. We searched our entire 2-acre property under all the bushes and trees, could not find him anywhere, couldn't find a hole in the fence. I could not figure out how he got out. But he got out and went somewhere and crawled under a bush and died. He knew it was his time. And I wish he hadn't done that. I wish he had died with us so I could have buried him. But That animals do sense when the time is near, and I'm sure you've seen people sense when their time is near. They stop eating, they stop communicating, they just lay there, and sometimes you think they're already gone, but if you say, I love you, they will say, I love you back. They're not dead, they're just, they're ready, it's their time. So, is it the fear of life, the fear of death, or is the fear of the pain of death? Some people, I've looked up some scientific studies or some maybe philosopher studies, they say people fear death because they view it as an annihilation of their person, the loss of who they are. They view it as a radical personal transformation. They are disappearing as the person they know and becoming something they don't know. Or maybe it's a threat to the meaningfulness of life, a threat to the completion of their life projects. I think personally it's more that transition. People don't like change. They don't like to see solar panels, they don't like to see windmills, they don't like to see the price of gas go up. They fear change, and being dead is a big change from being alive, and maybe that's something that scares the crap out of people. That's the only thing I can figure, because you take a lot of people and you ask them, would you rather suffer and go through all this? And that's a choice people make. If you're given the diagnosis of cancer and the cancer treatments that they have, some people will choose not to be treated and say, I just want to go quietly without all the fuss. That is a choice we should be allowed to make. So what is the value of a life? Economists have various ways of putting value to life, and so do we. If you're asked to do a dangerous job, how much do you expect in extra money to do the extra, to assume the extra risk? Sometimes they will give you a choice and sometimes they won't. One number perfected by the government was $300,000 per life. The government figured a life was worth $300,000, therefore if it cost more than $300,000 a person to save that life, they wouldn't spend the money to do it. So if the government computed it cost too much in printing or time spent to save an OSHA life like a protective device, then they would not spend the money, and those people could die because it was not economically effective to save their lives. It's called cost benefit. The benefits have to equal or exceed the cost to make it economically feasible to save your life. That is the actuarial cost of benefit cost analysis. Let's take the example of backup cameras on cars. Many children's lives would be saved if every car was mandated to have a backup camera that warned the driver their blind spot behind the car was occupied. But the expense of each car being equipped with a backup camera was considered to be more than the value of the young lives that would be lost. So, no backup camera. It's there as a choice, but it's not a mandate. And you can take the opposite, the cost of a seatbelt and the lives saved by wearing a seatbelt came out the benefit in lives saved and money spent on hospital bills. So every car has to have a seatbelt, and you actually have to wear a seatbelt. The same with airbags. This brings up another ingredient. Lives are valued at different amounts because of age, among other things. Children and the very old are not as valuable because they don't earn as much money for society during their adulthood. They cannot contribute to the economic value of society. So a child's life is worth much less than a middle-aged adult's. An old person's life is worth much less than middle-aged adults. And then let's factor in time. How much is a year of your life worth? You can see television ads all the time for cancer drugs that may extend your life, but they don't tell you how long. A week, 4 weeks, 4 months, a year, 4 years, and these drugs are extraordinarily expensive. How much is a person willing to spend for that additional length of time? How much does the insurance company or Medicaid spend to prolong your life? And this does not even get into the quality of life through this extension. And this brings us to the value of a life as considered by the individual person. In a war or dangerous situation such as a car accident or a physical violence being threatened on a person, how much does the person value their own life when sacrificing their life for the life of another? There are many stories about a person who has died trying to save their pet drowning in a river. Is that the value of a human life, the value of a dog's life? Or is the value of a human life sacrificed in a fire to save children or a parent or a loved one? Is that the value of a human life? And then we come to the value that others place on someone else's life. In war, generals commit their troops to battle, and they may know that these battles are fruitless and they're destined for disaster, but they want to make a point, or they want to draw the enemy's attention to a different place. So there's a willing sacrifice. They are willing to sacrifice the lives of their troops. So at the end, can we say there is an intrinsic value in human life? Is the value greater when we choose to sacrifice our life to save another? Or is it even much less when we choose to throw our life away by using drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, any of those things that ensure an early death? Here is a quote from Henry David Thoreau, who, by the way, is a famous Unitarian Universalist. There is no value in life except what you choose to place upon it, and no happiness in any place except what you bring to it yourself. Any thoughts of the essence of your life? Here's three that I picked up. The energy of the mind is the essence of life. That's by Aristotle. The essence of life, to serve others and to do good. And change is the essence of life. That's by Anatole France. He was a famous French philosopher. Do you have a favorite among those three? Or do you have something of your own? Something to think about. The value of your life, the value of your family's life, the value of some stranger's life you don't know but can see across the street, or the value of somebody's life in the Ukraine who all we do is see on television. So.
I always enjoyed John Fitzgerald Kennedy's favorite statement, that's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Exactly.
I've always loved that statement.
And how far away have we gotten from that? And now and that is part of that's pushing me to think the way I'm thinking, because it seems more and more now people are asking, what can the country do for them? How many taxes can we give back? You realize that Bill Gates and all these Bezos, they don't pay any taxes. And it's all legal because they have accountants can figure out. Somebody was telling me about the guy that has the electric cars, Musk. You know, they say he gave a whole bunch of money to charity. Well, he sold some of his stock and gave it to charity, and that takes away all the taxes he owes. That has nothing to do with the amount. Every one of us has to pay taxes, and what they've done is they're pushing taxes down to even lower. The people, if you make $20,000 a year, you have to pay income taxes, even though you can barely live on $20,000 a year now.
Most major corporations pay no taxes too.
Major corporations, Amazon.
Same way.
And they've all figured out loopholes to get through it, but they're loopholes that are written by the congressmen that they bought and paid for. And that's what happened when T.R. Roosevelt, remember I showed you the famous Republican presidents? T.R. Roosevelt was not listed among the best Republican presidents because he was a trust buster. Standard Oil paid no taxes and had a monopoly on the oil delivery across the entire country. And he broke that up and stopped that and made those people pay taxes. So, time to get off my high horse again, but you're still going to hear it every week, so unless somebody else is speaking. Any other comments? All right, be thinking about that, because coming up soon is grief. We went to the value of life and what life is and how we consider life, and then sometime we're going to consider how we consider death, how we deal with death, and what we do with it and how we get through it, whether it's our own death or someone else's death. So, and if you have any favorite quotes or ideas you want to contribute, please feel free to let me know. All right, where are we here? Our offering. This is Fish Sunday, first Sunday of the month. So as usual, feel free to put something in or to take something out. The website is listed on Facebook if you'd like to contribute there, and still waiting to see an envelope slipped under the door like in the days of Dickens. So we're going to hear Love Will Guide Us. Love the show tunes. Okay. You can always tell when Ty's not here because instead of hope and faith, he always sings faith and hope for some reason. And we looked it up, isn't it hope and faith?
Yeah.
So, but that's a hallmark of being Unitarian Universalist. You row your own boat and you choose your own way, and we're more than accepting of the whole thing. All right.
I wouldn't want to live any other life personally.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Our closing words, we're finishing a little bit early. Does anybody have anything they want to throw in?
Closing hymn.
Oh, that's right, we got our closing hymn. 293, O Star of Truth. O star of truth, thou shining through the clouds of doubt and fear, I ask beneath thy guidance my pathway may appear. However long the journey, however hard it be, Though I be lone and weary, lead on, I follow thee. The lyrics on these are always worth reading. Sometimes they're better than others, but this is another one of the good ones. Okay. Our closing words as we leave this community of spirit by Richard S. Gilbert. As we leave this community of the spirit, may we remember the difficult lesson that each day offers more things than we can do. May we do what needs to be done, postpone what does not, and be at peace with what we can be and do. Therefore, may we learn to separate that which matters most and that which matters least of all. Our postlude is Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. Yeah, nicely done. A melancholy tune for a nice, bright, sunny day, but clouds on the horizon. So let's keep the people of Ukraine in our hearts and minds. If I can find, Facebook offered me a chance to set up a donation site and have it directed to Ukraine. So if I can find something that I can trust that's really real, I may do that for those of you who aren't attending in person but still would like to contribute. Donuts, muffins, hot coffee, everything is there. Actually, we have lemonade too if you want lemonade. Have a good week, stay safe, and be careful. And the virus is still there. Wear your mask when you're in public. I forgot to say that. We're not giving up on that. Get your shots, get your booster. That closes our service from New Madison.
Tim, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And,